Hello, hello, JJD Geronimo here. Thank you so much for joining the Together We Seek podcast. Today we are talking about soul intelligence, and I am with Kristine Genovese, who designed the method, the soul intelligence method. And I love Kristine and her work. We've done a session together and probably will do more in the future. But Kristine, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, JJ, I'm so delighted that we've made the time to do this together. I've been looking forward to it.
I think the work you're doing is magical. And I love your mission of making the world a healthier place, which is such a beautiful mission. And you do it through all different ways. But a lot of things that you're doing is helping people heal without having to go through it again, which I think is such a beautiful thing because so many therapists want you to dig through. So let's talk about the soul intelligence method.
Awesome. Well, I think the first place we have to start is just recognizing that everybody and everything is energy, right? We kind of got to start, back in elementary school, remembering we're protons, neutrons, electrons vibrating in this electromagnetic field. And that because of that, we're energetic beings, but we forget that because we're physical, we're corporal, right? But the only way we're streaming right now, the only way I'm seeing you and you're seeing me is an energy transfer, a frequency transfer. And we're energy and frequency receiving energy and frequency through our ears, or we wouldn't hear music, right? Or these words. And we take for granted that things just stream and pop on our phone or our laptops. It's all energy. And so the cool thing is, Einstein said a long time ago that the future of medicine is actually frequency, and we're actually living that now.
We are living that. And I just had the opportunity to see the Frequency movie. And it's a woman who goes to all lengths of the world to find different technologies based on frequency that actually end up healing her. So this is happening in more ways than one.
It's fantastic. And so, when we start talking about energy and frequency, we also have to talk about where do those things go within our body, right? Is it stored in our cells? Is it stored in our DNA? Where does it hide out? And most of what goes on hides out in our subconscious mind. Believe it or not, all that strategizing, figuring, calculating, all that stuff is only 5% of our mind. The rest is in the subconscious mind, which I suppose is good, right? Or we'd stop breathing when we're sleeping. But it's like if all my stuff, my self-limiting beliefs, those negative energies, emotions, and thoughts, all my old trauma, my patterns, all the things I developed as a kid, it's stuck in my subconscious mind. How do I know what it is and what needs to shift? And how do I get it out of there? So that's really where the soul intelligence method comes in, because I'm able to figure out what it is and what's causing that block. Why are you self-sabotaging? Or why haven't you been able to shift up and out of this pattern? Or why this pattern keeps showing up, not only in your personal life, but your professional life. So it's a really cool method. And it works on the principles, the science of bioenergetics. And to me, that's kind of common sense. Bioenergetics is basically the correlation between your physical well-being and your mental and emotional well-being. It was documented in the 1950s by Dr. Alexander Lowen. And basically, it shows that if you're not physically feeling well, then mentally and emotionally, you're probably not doing so hot either, or vice versa. And that's essentially what it talks about.
That is fascinating. And I've heard that through so many different podcasts that energy harbors somewhere in our body. And oftentimes we have to move that energy out to get rid of that pain and sometimes illness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because when energy is stuck, that's when it pools, right, in the body. And that's when it causes dis-ease, a dysfunction, or a dissonance in your frequency. And then typically you have to go to the doctor to figure out, okay, how do I get rid of this?
Yes. The first time I heard dis-ease was Louise Hay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. She was one of the early pioneers. And it's really interesting that you bring that up when we talk about positive affirmations, right? The power of positive thinking. She was one of the first people to do that when she healed herself of cancer by doing the positive affirmations. The other part of that is the feeling and the belief, right? And those are the things that not only in the quantum field, actually the affirmation is really the electromagnetic spark, right? That is the spark in the electromagnetic field. But what collapses that particle wave and manifests it and brings it into physical form is the feeling behind it and the belief. And that's why some people are able to heal and other people are not able to heal, because you have to get to those underlying emotions and beliefs to shift them up and out of the body so that they can heal, completely, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, in all ways, ultimately holistically.
Well, that's a good point. So how do people like lift that up? Because sometimes people don't even know like what they are harboring. Other times they do, but even if they did know, they oftentimes don't know how to like unhook it.
Right. And that's the cool thing about the method. So for me, I use a book of charts, about 30 different charts, everything from like negative energies, emotions, and thoughts to archetypes or patterns. I have over like 100 of those, to self-limiting beliefs. And then I have charts that help me figure out the who, what, when, if it's trauma related. Because sometimes we think we've healed it on a mental level, right? Like we've talked through it. Why is this coming up again? I thought I healed that, and I think people have to recognize, things come off in layers and they come off when you're ready to heal. Like sometimes you can only heal a portion of something and then you kind of level up and then you're like, okay, I can go deeper now, right? I can clear this off. So we're kind of like those onions. And so you've sometimes got to peel layer after layer in order to get things to heal completely.
That's actually great perspective is like you have to be ready to let go. Many of us have things that have happened in the past that we hold on to so tightly, like we're protecting it and like really doing the energy work necessary and the frequency work to jiggle it around and eventually let it go. And that can take layers and layers of work and allowing and being vulnerable.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing, most of us don't want to be vulnerable because that's when we get hurt. And so to get somebody to be in a relaxed state or an open state is really when we're able to actually receive the healing. So the coolest thing to me with the soul intelligence method is all somebody has to do is to show up. That's it. And they show up to a Zoom session and people are like, how does it work over Zoom? I'm like, the same way I'm seeing you and hearing you, it's an energy transfer, frequency transfer. So I'm going to be able to shift what needs to shift because we're connected energetically. Once they're, in a session with me, that's the coolest part is all you have to do is to show up and receive. And I know you had a session with me, and that's pretty much it, right? You just get relaxed and open up.
Yes, and you can feel, being present. I felt some of the work being done. Like energetically, I felt things shifting around. And I feel like to your point, we're so conditioned that that healing has to look and feel like this. And in
Mm.
reality, we have unlimited opportunities to heal each other remotely.
Absolutely. And so, I sometimes when I talk to people about, doing the work themselves, like what does it mean when you decide to go on this healing journey and you decide to, do that work, how they're not only impacting the people in their lives, the people they're aware of that are around them, their family, their friends, their colleagues and coworkers, but they also can have an actual impact on the collective consciousness. And people are like, what are you talking about? I heal my stuff and I help everybody else. And I said, yeah, because in quantum physics, right, a butterfly on one side of the world, if it dramatically changes its flight pattern, it can actually cause a tsunami on the other side of the world because we're all energy and we're all connected. And that is science, it's quantum physics, and that's how energy works. So it is kind of cool when you think about when I heal me, I'm helping so many other people because then it really kind of turns into a selfless act, right? I think I always say self-care is not selfish, it's sacred. And it really is because you're helping yourself and so many people, right? Because we're shedding the world of this lower force energy that we don't need anymore.
Yes, we sure as heck do not need this lower force energy. Yes.
I know
Yes.
there's a lot going on out there. And that kind of gets back to what makes people sick or what makes people have these blockages within the body, right? There are like key factors. The first one is stress. I don't know one person that doesn't experience stress, even during the day. It could be something little, like a text coming across your phone, right? And how many times you're going into fight or flight, you're freaking out. But stress is the number one thing, because when you're under extreme stress, it lowers your body's immune response, your ability to heal, right? And send out the immune fighters to keep your body healthy. And so stress is the number one. Number two is toxicity. And when we talk about toxicity, I think most people think like chemicals in the home, or my clothes, or those kinds of things, my cleaners. But I'm also talking about who's in your life. Do you have people that are loving and supportive and on your team and really excited every time you share a win? Or do you have people that are constantly trying to pull you down? That person, you see their name come up on your cell phone, you just cringe like, oh gosh, I don't think I want to answer that right this minute, right? Energy vampires. So you have to look at the toxicity in your life. And that's people. That's also, what are you reading? What are you watching? What are you listening to? Most of what makes us, unhealthy is lifestyle related. It's poor nutrition. We don't get what we need out of the food that we have. It's lack of movement. And it's all of this baggage that we're carrying around on an energetic level. A lot of it, we're not even aware of what it is, but we just don't feel right. We just feel off.
I know. I know. Believe me, I've done the work and I agree with you. And I totally pay attention to what I watch, what I read, what I listen to, and even what conversations I'm having, not just with other people, but with myself.
Outstanding. Because your body doesn't know,
Mhm.
is that coming from the outside or is that you telling it? Again, because what comes out of our mouth is energy, it is frequency, and so it is programming. So one of the times that was really remarkable for me, just using the soul intelligence method and other things, was a time where I had a cervical cancer scare. And one of the things I did once I got that diagnosis was I went to every kind of healer I could think of. First of all, because as soon as you hear the word biopsy, you're like, what? One of the first people said to me, yeah, well, you're having this cervical cancer scare because you've suppressed your divine feminine. And at the time I was like, well, what the heck does that mean? What do I have to grow my hair long, dance? What does it mean I'm not in touch with my divine feminine at the time, right? I didn't know what you're talking about. But I had grown up in corporate America at a time during the glass ceiling. And so I was working twice as hard to achieve. And I acted like one of the guys. I would use crass language. I suppressed my femininity. I would, make sure I knew the latest sports results and all kinds of things. And I'd make fun of people who would cry at work. And I'm like, whoa, like talk about pushing the masculine or pushing the feminine down. I used to see feminine as weak. Women cry and they're too emotional. And I was so in my masculine that my body was like, hey, did you forget you're a woman? And so I mutated. That energy had to go somewhere. So I literally mutated the cells in my cervix, which is the seat of womanhood, right? That's where we birth babies, we birth businesses. And so I needed to get in touch with that. And so I started studying like famous female figures, right? Leaders and super smart ladies, like going all the way back to Egypt, like Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess. She had like lion's mane, I think because of my crazy hair. I probably identified with her a little bit. And, like Margaret Thatcher, even somebody like, who was so smart in politics and helped lead a country, to Joan of Arc, like just really looking at strong female leaders. And I went, wow, I really got this wrong. But it was the way I grew up. I really devalued my femininity or myself. So I did that. So I hit the mental. Then on the emotional side, I started talking to my cells, my body. Because I had a girlfriend who was also a massage therapist and into energy work. And she said to me, by the time you go in for that conical biopsy, it's going to be gone. And I said, you know what? You're right. It is going to be gone. So I started talking to myself. I said, you guys are vibrating healthy. I learned, I know how to embrace my divine feminine and balance my divine masculine. I've got everything in balance. And I started talking to my body. So I did the emotional work. I did the mental work. And then physically, I went in for the conical biopsy. I will never forget my OBGYN's face when she came out and she said to me, "We must have cut it all out because it's gone." And I was like, yeah, we must have. So, did we do it physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically? My answer is all of the above. E, like every school answer test. Yes, it's all the things. And that's what we mean by healing holistically on every level.
That is beautiful. And I'm so happy for you. But I
Thank
also
you.
love the fact that you touched on so many things. Like, one, how much women push things down. Like,
Mm,
so real for me, so real for so many women I know, right? Is trying to fit into a structure that is not designed for us,
right.
right? But we try to fit in. I often say we leave half our knowing at the door, yet we try to excel as though we're using all our gifts. And we have been taught for so long to leave our gifts on the side of the road or at the door. And so I think that's
Mm,
beautiful. But then you also talk about healing yourself and how possible that is,
mhm.
and using your mind and your body to really go in and heal yourself. And sure, there's plenty of, I say go at it all different ways, but healing yourself is part of the solution. And I feel like having this experience probably helps you so much with your clients.
Oh, for sure. The other thing I will say, since I talked about me and, divine feminine and embracing that, I certainly used my own method on myself, right? I had to energetically shift things up and out and confirm, oh, yeah, that is what I did. But I also know one of the reasons why so many men have prostate cancer when they retire is because that's the seat of manhood, and that's where they hold their purpose. And so in retirement, men often feel like they've lost their purpose because they're no longer out there, hunting and gathering and bringing in the bacon, as it were. But the whole idea is, making sure that you embrace yourself, right? And that you recognize what those patterns are, because our cells can mutate, and we can actually, believe it or not, use energy and frequency to break the outer cell membrane walls of cancer cells. They actually are using electromagnetic pulse right now to do that, since I've talked about cancer, to shrink the tumor cells. So we're using frequency medicine today, as opposed to having to take things like chemo, the chemical side, to kill the good cells and the bad cells, or the radiation to burn the good cells and the bad cells. You can actually use electromagnetic pulse frequency now to break the outer cell membrane walls and shrink tumors and get the cells to be healthy again. And it's all about getting back in alignment. And so really recognizing what's going sideways and how do we fix it and how do we course correct it. And I think it's just being open that, we always have a deeper level, right? When do we, I think that we are always looking for the final destination. Where are we headed? And when is it going to be easy and great? That's not why we're here. This is like life university. So it's like a new level of understanding or new level of wisdom that we achieve. And so I think you kind of just move up in that way.
So beautiful. So, somebody listening to this podcast wants to explain what soul intelligence method is. What's the one sentence or a few sentences that they could share?
Sure. It's a bioenergetic healing method, which means I get to the root cause, the underlying root cause of dis-ease in the physical, mental, or emotional body. So it's able to help somebody heal completely and holistically on all levels. And so I actually am very fortunate that I get to partner in the functional medicine world, and partner with a lot of healthcare providers, where we tag team patients, where I'm working on the mental and emotional aspects, and they're working on giving them the right nutraceuticals and natural ways, natural therapies and supplements to help them heal completely. Because the other side of my life, I believe in making the world healthy on every level. I'm the chief growth officer for Nutritional Frontiers, which is a nutraceutical company. We sell professional grade supplements to healthcare providers to help people heal in the physical. So I have the opportunity to do the energy medicine, the physical healing, and really bring all those parts and pieces together. So I feel really blessed to be able to do that.
That is so fabulous. Will you share with us? Your links are below, but how should people reach out to you and how do they know they should reach out to you?
Oh my goodness. Well, you can reach me at soulintelligencemethod.com online, and that's SOUL because it is all about the soul. And nutritionalfrontiers.com is the nutraceutical website. But if you are feeling like, you've got something physically going wrong, or you're mentally not right, or emotionally you're tied up, you feel like you're stuck in a pattern you just can't shift out of, you've got something that's recurring that doesn't seem to want to heal completely, right? You're kind of stuck on that hamster wheel. A lot of what people get treated for with doctors are chronic illnesses, things that just won't heal. That's usually when you need to call me in. And typically, I'm like the last, fun stop on the Magical Mystery Tour. People are always coming to me going, I've tried everything else, so now I'm coming to you. And typically, they have really good results. So I'm happy to be, one of the stops on the train to people's complete healing.
Well, that is so amazing. I really appreciate you visiting the Together We Seek podcast. I love that our paths have crossed, and I feel like it's just so great to educate people on different ways to not only heal themselves, but also decouple energy that may have them stuck. And I think many of
Yeah,
us turn to traditional medicine, but I love your approach of tag teaming with vitamins and doctors and the frequency that can really help people sort of decouple what might be holding them back.
absolutely. And I just, just to mention, besides my website, if people are looking to read a little bit more about the soul intelligence method, my book is called Healing Through Soul Intelligence, and it is available on Amazon and Kindle and Audible. And yes, I did read it myself. I recorded it in a studio in LA. And soon you'll be able to see me in a movie called The Pillars of Power, which is just premiered in Los Angeles 2 weeks ago. And it's going to be in a limited release in AMC theaters throughout the country and then on streaming platforms. So I'm pretty excited. It's a 20-year anniversary of The Secret. So we talked about Louise Hay, another pioneer in the world of transformation. The Secret, the movie and the book, we have a number of the original cast members from it. So the pioneers in transformation, along with some of today's transformational specialists like myself. And I'm in 3 out of the 5 pillars of power in the movie. So I was really, really thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, that's fantastic. And I hope that you'll bring that into the Together We Seek community, which we have light workers, healers, and mystics from all over the world. And
Yes.
I'd love to post the book and the movie because I feel like we're always looking for things to keep our frequency high. And movies are just such a great way to connect all of us. So hopefully you'll share those links with
Absolutely.
us and we'll share it with our community.
That would be amazing. And JJ, thank you so much for having me on today and making time. It's been a pleasure to be in your energy.
Oh, I'm so honored that you joined us. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for making the time. Please reach out, pick up the book, watch the movie. I find that all of us can continue to work on raising our frequency and moving stuck to energy. So thank you so much for joining us.